other way is to unify around your opposition to the external threat, the foreigners. Now there is an interesting comment I want to quote to you here by Aizawa Seishisai. And he wrote this book called The Shinron. And he's an advisor to the Mito domain, an influential thinker. And many of you might think that this is a contemporary book. Because here he says, the country they call America is located at the rear end of the world, and so its inhabitants are stupid and incompetent. That's in 1825. So he seems to have been a rather perceptive fellow, and this sort of gives you a sense of the worldview. Makes you think, what were the Dutch telling these people back in those days, right? I mean, how did the Japanese know about the outside world? A lot of it was through the Dutch, so I think maybe the Dutch have been giving them some funny information. But anyway, so this is sort of what the Japanese know about America when Perry arrives. And then if you look at the time, they were making these woodblock prints, and so they're depicting the foreigners, right? And so foreigners, of course, are all sort of red, really ruddy. They got long noses, they got big beards, and they sort of look sort of almost like, you know, devils or something like that, right? So clearly there was a little gap between inside and the outside. Now, interestingly, top institution of learning in Japan these days, I mean outside of Temple, is the University of Tokyo. And the University of Tokyo didn't start as a university. How did the university start? Well, they were part, you know.
Weren't they actually for educating the royal people and aristocrats, and then ended up slowly opening up other parts?
Well, no, they were in the Department of Astronomy. Interesting, right? And they were the Institute for the Study of Barbarian Affairs, to be direct in translation. But it's really interesting that they're in the Institute of Astronomy. So, you know, in terms of worldview here, Japan maybe had to do a little catch up to find out what's going on in the rest of the world. And to that end, they then sent lots of study missions around the world because they realized there's this huge gap between Japan and the rest of the world. Japan, you know, is at a great disadvantage. And so what Japan needs to do is to respond to the Western threat. They need time to do so. So that means that the policy of Sakoku is over because they didn't have a choice, right? And they need to open themselves on a limited basis. They need to sign the unequal treaties. The unequal treaties that America negotiates with Japan finally bring an end to the Tokugawa policy of seclusion. They also demonstrate for everybody to see just how weak the government is. And the opposition knows it has the government in its crosshairs. The opposition then rallies around the slogan, Sono Joy, which is revere the emperor, expel the barbarian. The barbarians being foreign, Western foreigners, in case you need. So, what they're saying then, in effect, if you don't expel the barbarians, or are unable to do so, it means that you are not properly revering the emperor. So in a sense, they put the Tokugawa shogunate in an impossible situation. If they sign the unequal treaties, that means they are not expelling the barbarian. It means that they are not properly revering the emperor. Now everybody in Japan knows they really don't have much choice. Japan can ill afford to wage a war against the United States or any of the other Western powers because they know they will lose, and that will provide the pretext for foreign powers to impose their will. So better to appease the foreign powers, better to negotiate an unequal treaty, even though it is, by definition, unequal, and it is being negotiated under the threat of the gunships in Tokyo Bay. But better to negotiate and assign it rather than start a war you're going to lose.